Welcome back. In this video, we're going to deal with breathing indoor air. It's going to be lousy, and I'm sorry about that. It will get better after this, but this is just going to be a miserable video on a couple of different levels. First, the cons are more than we know, which I'll explain that in a moment. The ones we know are terrible, and the fact that we don't know all of them is even worse. So I'll try to make the video relatively brief. What we're talking about here, the technology is plastics. So early 1900s, so early 20th century, not all, but most of our building materials for buildings were relatively natural things. We're talking about wood, we're talking about stone. It's not that everything was perfect, but it was understandable. People knew what the risks were. There were a lot of fires in the 19th century because so much of our building material was made of wood. A lot less fire now because a lot of our home materials are fire resistant. That's going to come. I mean, that's great. I should probably say that. That's fantastic. It's going to come at a cost. Okay. So point number one, and I didn't write this on the board, and I think I kind of want to now. Let's see. Indoor air. I'm going to put it here. The EPA, so the Environmental Protection Agency, does not regulate indoor air. Does not regulate indoor air quality. So there are no federal standards by which we can evaluate this, which is lousy because what that means is you're outside. Sometimes the air is not safe to breathe, but we at least kind of know that. You go into a building and there's really no way to know if what you are breathing is safe or not. So that's kind of lousy. Then plastics come into play. So we talked about stone and wood. Then in the 20th century, mid 20th century, plastics. I'm going to define very specifically for you. I'm going to define it right now. I'm not going to write this on the board, so you'll want to write this down. Synthetic materials produced by people that our bodies did not evolve to deal with. So we're talking about chemicals that, as we've talked about before, you can breathe in. They can end up in your bloodstream, and your body did not evolve any sort of defense to or any way to accommodate, which is terrifying. It would be kind of relieving if we knew what we were breathing was relatively safe. And here is where we get into the more than we know. There are right now approximately 84,000 chemicals in commercial use in America, which is just mind-boggling. 84,000. Now, here is the super disturbing part. 1% of them have been evaluated for toxicity. 1%, which means the vast majority, almost, 840, 83,000 have not been. Those are things that are in our homes, some of them, that we have no idea how toxic they are. The stuff that we do know is not good, at least some of it. There are a couple of different categories of chemicals that I debated making you know, and I ended on the side of you don't need to, but I'm going to mention them. Perfluorinated chemicals, which are PFCs, and volatile organic compounds, that sounds fun, that are abbreviated as VOCs. These do lots of things for us in our homes that are very cool. They waterproof and stain-proof our carpets. They are found in the compressed wood that is used in home construction. The problem is that these things contribute to these things leach chemicals over time, and in that leaching, those chemicals end up sometimes being odorless, and we're breathing them in. They lead to cardiovascular disease. They lead to chronic respiratory diseases and lung infections. In older adults, they can lead to cognitive decline. In younger students, such as yourselves, they can lower academic and cognitive performance and worsen respiratory health. And that's just those things. Then when we think about the fact that we are being put into these situations with ventilation that isn't always good. We ran into this with COVID in 2020. There are high rates of infectious disease transmissions in buildings. So, anything from the flu to common colds to COVID to the extent that we're not being vaccinated, to measles and tuberculosis and things like that. So this is all terrible, basically. Sorry about that. And the more than we know refers to the fact that most of these chemicals that are inside our buildings have not been evaluated for toxicity. Many of them are odorless, so we don't know if we're breathing them in. Sorry if you have a paranoid streak. Well, we will talk actually about a semi-solution to it in the next video. So what we've done right now is dealt with all of the air, the outdoor air and now the indoor air. So in terms of breathing, what we've dealt with is the air that we are breathing in. Where I want to transition now, and what I'm obviously pretty excited to get to, is instead of what we're breathing, how we're breathing. I don't want to like you've gotten enough in this video. I'll deal with that in the next video, but it's going to be very cool and depressing, but have a cool end to it. All right, see you then.